Alright, so we are back with yet another follow-up video. Recently, about 9 days ago or so, we did a video talking about the Jeff Grubb podcast where he mentioned an upcoming State of Play and then a later down the road PlayStation Showcase. And even in Jeff Grubb's podcast, he mentioned that the State of Play he thinks is happening in March, but it could potentially happen sooner, which sooner would obviously put it in February. So we knew that there's a decent chance it was happening in February, and here we are. So we learned today there is a State of Play coming up on Thursday, February 23rd, so that's 2 days from now. It'll be 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern time, or 10 p.m. Central European time. So for me, that's going to be about 3 p.m. Central time. We actually know kind of a lot of information about the event in terms of the length of the events, how many games are going to be there. One of the games is going to be kind of heavily showcased, and a handful of what the other games are. So we're just going to read over Gamatsu's description of the event. It says, the broadcast will feature new looks at some anticipated games from our third-party partners, as well as a first glimpse at 5 PlayStation VR 2 titles launching later in 2023. It will end with over 15 minutes of new gameplay details and updates on Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. PlayStation Blog Japan clarifies, over the course of 45 minutes, we will showcase new reveals and the latest information and gameplay for 16 new titles across PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, and PlayStation VR 2. So this is going to be a pretty thick State of Play. I mean, we've had some before. They're in the 40-minute range, but they're usually, I think, like 20 to 30 minutes, and sometimes they're less than that, right? We've had like some 15-minute or so State of Plays. But 15 minutes of that will be dedicated to Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, so you might as well say that it's a 30-minute State of Play, because I'm personally... The game looks okay, but I'm not like here for that. I could care less about that. Like I might get the game at some point, but I'm not here to watch 15 minutes of gameplay. And actually, this picture of Batman from the game on Google Images just reminded me that this will be Kevin Conroy's last portrayal as Batman. Obviously, he died relatively recently. So I'll definitely get the game at some point because of that alone, because you obviously want to hear that last performance. So put inside that 15 minutes for Suicide Squad, we know that 5 of the titles are going to be PSVR 2, so again, me personally could not give a shit less, but in total, that'll be 6 games right there. That still leaves 10 more games, right? So that's at least like 10 games that we just don't know what those could be right now. They do specify, at least with the Gamatsu description, that it seems like maybe the whole event's focusing on third-party games, and it would rule out stuff like the PS5, like Wolverine game, and like Spider-Man 2, right? Those are Insomniac. Insomniac's owned by Sony, of course, so that's a first-party studio, first-party games. And then there's stuff that I'm not entirely sure of, like Death Stranding 2, where from the research that I've done, like Sony owns the rights to Death Stranding, but they don't actually own Kojima Productions, so I don't know if that qualifies Death Stranding 2 as either a third-party or first-party game, right? I'm not sure on that. And again, if the State of Play is focusing on third-party games and studios, then that would also allow something like the upcoming Silent Hill games. There's a plethora of those, right? Because those are, some of them are exclusive to the PlayStation platform, but obviously Sony does not own Konami. So that's a handful of games really quickly off the top of my head that could or couldn't be this event, just kind of depend on what the State of Play is fully about. If it is strictly a third party, and obviously I'm beating around the bush a bit, because when we're talking about third party, we're talking about PlayStation. Obviously Square Enix falls under that umbrella, and very similar to some of the studios we talked about in this video. While Square Enix is not a first-party studio for Sony, Sony doesn't own Square Enix, right? They do obviously make plenty of PlayStation-exclusive games. And obviously we know that this event isn't focusing on like brand new titles that just haven't been revealed yet, because they're dedicating a big part of this to Suicide Squad. So it's very possible that they could show something in regards to FF7 Rebirth, Final Fantasy 16, obviously the 9 Remake if that exists, and obviously the Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster. And anything else that we just don't know about. In regards to 16, I don't exactly know what they would show if they had it at this event, but I think I said in the previous video, probably the State of Play video actually, that what I want from another like 16 trailer or something is gameplay. But I mean gameplay like outside of combat. Like what the hell else are we doing in the game besides fighting? Like what can we do in our free time, right? Like that's something I would like to see in the next trailer. Maybe a mix of that and obviously cinematics and cutscenes and things like that. But that's just kind of all I'm really lacking at this point. Like everything else, I'm good on. The last trailer, obviously, I did a reaction to it. I was fucking floored by it. I'm excited for the game now. But I just want to see what else the game offers, right? What sort of mini games, exploration, collectibles, if that's a thing, whatever, right? Now, we were talking about the State of Play on Twitter, and somebody did mention the demo for 16, because there should be a demo. There's been a demo for like every Final Fantasy game ever, so that should be a thing at some points. That's something they could do. They could have like a smaller trailer potentially that just reveals the demo. And I don't know when the demo would drop. Usually with Square Enix, they're usually closer to the release date. Like Forspoken, for example, which just came out. The demo was like December 20th or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. And obviously the game came out last month, right? It's usually what Square Enix does. I think sometimes they've had demos a few months ahead of time of the release date. But if they were going to do a demo for this game, like they wouldn't drop it yet, I don't think. It'd be closer probably to the summer. And obviously when it comes to Rebirth, I know every time we talk about Rebirth and an upcoming event, there's people out there that roll their eyes, but the game's going to get fucking revealed somewhere at some point, right? They got to start marketing the game eventually. It's just kind of annoying to me how negative people are in this community, because like, obviously Rebirth hasn't been shown again since the initial reveal, right? But the same people who say it's never going to be any gaming event always say that, and inevitably it's going to be at some gaming event. And there's also the same people that said it wouldn't be the 25th anniversary live stream, which anybody with a handful of brain cells bouncing around in there knew that the game would be at that event, right? Like it was pretty obvious for most of us out there. People seem to forget that the remake project itself has a history at State of Play. That's where the sort of re-reveal, if you want to call it that, back in 2019 happened, right? So I personally don't see the problem with looking towards any State of Play for anything in regards to the remake project, because it's the same reason why people look towards E3s, Tokyo Game Shows, Game Awards, stuff like that, where they've in the past had trailers for the remake project. People just don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Now, me saying all this, what is the likelihood of Rebirth being at the State of Play? I just don't know. It's been 8 months. We've not had anything else in terms of trailers and things like that. Very little news about the game or information. And it does kind of seem like maybe they want to market 16 and then either wait till the release of 16 or close to the release of 16 to maybe start ramping up marketing for this game. So I don't know. It's hard to say. I'm hesitant to say it's going to be at an event myself. Now, if we want to use Remake as sort of the baseline when it comes to Rebirth, just because it's the only thing we have to go on currently when it comes to the Remake project, there was less than a year of marketing, right? The game was re-revealed May 2019 with State of Play, and the game was supposed to come out in March 2020 and got delayed till April 2020, right? So that's like a 10 or 11 month difference, just kind of depending on which month you want to pick out of that. And obviously next month going forward, we have about a year or less till the game drops, right? Or supposed to drop, barring any delays, because it's supposed to be next winter, so that's December of this year till March of next year, like a 4-month time frame, right? Well, it sucks that we've gone so long without anything for Rebirth. We're kind of right on track, just like we were with Remake, right? Like, if they wanted to give us a second trailer for Rebirth sometime around, like, say, May of this year, and give us, like, a March release date of next year, that'd be exactly the fucking same as what they do with Remake, right? We'd have less than a year marketing. But then also, according to Jeff Grubb, there's an upcoming PlayStation showcase that's closer to the summer, and that makes more sense for where they would show off Rebirth. So I don't think it's going to be the State of Play. Then obviously we have the 9 Remake and the Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster, and if those games do exist, they could definitely be at State of Play. But that's more or less the video, my dudes. Right? This is stuff we've already talked about. Probably talked about it longer than I needed to. But here we are. Sometimes it's like talking to you guys. So, State of Play is in a couple of days. We know that there's going to be 16 games there, 45 minutes. We know what one of the games are going to be. We know that 15 minutes is going to be dedicated to that one game. We know that 5 of the games are going to be PSVR 2. That leaves 10 other games. What do you think those are? And actually, I forgot to mention this earlier in the video. I was going to make a bit of a joke about it, but there is 16 games at this event. So are they teasing Final Fantasy 16 a little bit with that number? I don't know. Probably not. Anyways, that's the video, my dudes. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. Social networks in the description below. Follow me on Twitter, @YT. That's it. Bye.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Rogaine, or leave it like Cobain.